I've been waiting to say this for a minute. Yeah. Listen, this is written for long-term visitors, non-committers who get the word but never get to work. At least not in conjunction with a church. They stay away and say they afraid of getting hurt, but pain is never excuse for disobedience. Church wasn't created to cater to your convenience, and God didn't give you gifts to be greedy with. Mission without the church is missing the main ingredient. I know I rushed in without much of an introduction, but membership is what we're discussing. Committing to a community through a covenant, and doing the one another's a scripture with brethren. Membership, it actually happens at salvation, but practically it happens in active participation. If one is the fact, then two is the demonstration. For the maturing Christian, nothing should separate them. If one is the truth, then number two is the proof. If it's aloof, then number one is a lion without a tooth. If not the elect, who's inspecting your fruit? Just a select group of heads from your crew? That's not a test, dude. It's more like a bad science experiment with no control groups in the lab and lying experiences. It's foolish to laugh denying it's serious when the only proof that you have is kinda mysterious. This may be bold to say, but if you're not a part of a church, how do you know you're saved? The chances are you're probably not a bit. The objective evidence is saying the opposite. A body without biblical membership is sick, and the health depends on them getting it. So though you claim to be in it, kid, please consider this. If you is, then show us how you living it. We live in the days of the consumer. Shopping's a coveted skill and bloggers write reviews up. No one commits, people leave when they choose, cause ain't nobody trying to be tied down with too much. Labor only lasts as long as it passions. Cats dip, saying they feel bad with no sadness. They want that good stuff without the attachments, like friends with benefits of the ecclesial fashion. Playing the church like the girls that you date, then you criticize her like you're Seinfeld or Satan. Explain. You sit in the back making your accusations, but you ain't willing to aid in her sanctification. Hypocrite. I know that I'm getting a little hype, but you gotta understand the church was purchased by Christ's blood. And if Levi got jealous for Dinah, of course the Levite's gonna be zealous for the bride, cause we see that Haggai and Zechariah were willing to work with Israel, not just prophesy stuff. You can check for yourself in Ezra 5:1, then wrestle with verse 2 until you're ready to die. What? Yeah, I didn't study, you heard me right, bruh. Dying is the price for being up in the cipher. It's all or nothing, cats are putting their life up, but you be isolated like you don't even like us. This may be bold to say, but if you're not a part of a church, how do you know you're saved? The chances are you're probably not a bit. The objective evidence is saying the opposite. A body without biblical membership is sick, and the health depends on them getting it. So though you claim to be in it, kid, please consider this. If you is, then show us how you living it. Membership is not a check in a box or an altar call response when the sermon is hot. It's privileges bought with his blood on the cross, and it separates the flock from the world that is lost, kid. Membership is being a part of the body, but how can you be a body part when apart from the body? And furthermore, how could you possibly think it's godly when God is one or even 3 in 1, but he's not 3? I know the reality's universal, but practically it has to be tangible to the world too. So how do we gather to spur the virtues when our anatomy has been scattered throughout the earth, dude? The local church has entered the picture, the form of the assembly most mentioned in scripture. This is who you were given spiritual gifts for, to Voltron with a squad and adjusties to the mixture. They're also the tools used to fix ya. Iron sharpens iron, sparks flying and sick stuff. But don't try to punk out when it gets rough. Satan's like a roaring lion trying to evict ya. He's waiting for you to faint when it gets tough. Straggle at the back of the flock and you might be his lunch. Or maybe you'll prove you were never his, bruh. 1 John 2:19, homie, you with us? This may be bold to say, but if you're not a part of a church, how do you know you're saved? The chances are you're probably not a bit. The objective evidence is saying the opposite. A body without biblical membership is sick, and the health depends on them getting it. So though you claim to be in it, kid, please consider this. If you is, then show us how you living it.